A millionaire saw a little girl crying and pointing at a trash bin. When he approached, he couldn't believe what he found. The sharp sound of Eleanor Montgomery's high heels echoed through the empty skyscraper hallways. It was nearly midnight, and once again she was the last one leaving the office. As the mirrored elevator descended, her reflection told a story of success and solitude. Perfectly styled hair, a crisp Armani suit, and tired eyes hiding untold secrets. The elevator doors opened to an empty lobby. The night security guard, used to her late departures, simply nodded. Eleanor returned the gesture with a practiced automatic smile. "Ms. Montgomery, your driver called. He's stuck in traffic because of an accident." Eleanor sighed in frustration. Another unexpected hiccup in an already too long day. "That's fine, James. I'll walk. I need to stretch my legs anyway." The cold, damp night air wrapped around her like a heavy blanket as she stepped out of the building. The city, usually a whirlwind of lights and noise, felt strangely silent. Eleanor began walking, her footsteps echoing against the deserted sidewalks. Then she heard it. A sound so out of place on that urban night that she stopped abruptly. Crying. Not the whiny wail of a spoiled child, but a desperate, heart-wrenching sob filled with anguish Eleanor hadn't heard since. She shook her head, pushing away unwelcome memories. Turning a corner, she found the source, a little girl, no older than 7, standing beside a dumpster. Fat tears streaked her dirty face as she pointed frantically at the bin. For a moment, Eleanor hesitated. Her world of boardrooms and million-dollar deals hadn't prepared her for this, but something about the scene pulled at her, as if an invisible thread connected her heart to the girl's. "Hey," Eleanor called softly, stepping closer. The girl shrank back, frightened. "It's okay, I won't hurt you." "What happened?" The girl, still sobbing, only pointed at the dumpster. Eleanor felt a shiver run down her spine. Heart pounding, she stepped closer and peered inside. The world seemed to stop. Wrapped in a filthy blanket, a newborn baby stirred weakly. Its barely open eyes seemed to plead for help. Acting on instinct, Eleanor had the baby in her arms within seconds, checking its breathing and feeling its fragile warmth. The girl clung to Eleanor's leg, still crying. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Eleanor asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Sophia," the girl stammered between sobs. "Sophia, you were so brave. Now I need you to be brave a little longer and help me save this baby, okay?" Sophia nodded, her wide eyes fixed on the tiny bundle in Eleanor's arms. With one hand, Eleanor pulled out her phone and dialed emergency services. As she explained the situation, her mind raced. Who would abandon a baby? Why was Sophia there? And why, after years of building walls around herself, did Eleanor feel something fundamental shifting inside her? Sirens began to wail in the distance. Eleanor looked at Sophia, then at the baby in her arms. "Everything will be okay," she murmured, not entirely sure who she was trying to reassure. The ambulance's flashing lights lit up the street, and Eleanor watched as a man jumped out before the vehicle even came to a complete stop. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Eleanor felt as if he could see through all her carefully constructed defenses. "I'm Dr. Theodore Walsh," he introduced himself, already examining the baby. "You saved this child's life." As the scene unfolded, paramedics, police officers, endless questions, Eleanor found herself holding Sophia's hand. Dr. Walsh tended to the baby with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with his rugged appearance. When the chaos finally subsided and Eleanor stood alone on the sidewalk again, she realized her life had irrevocably changed. The cries of a baby and the tears of a little girl had cracked the armor she'd spent years building. Looking up at the night sky, Eleanor made a silent promise. She didn't know how, but she would uncover the story behind this abandonment. And in the process, perhaps she could finally confront the ghosts of her own past. The sound of footsteps made her turn. It was Dr. Walsh. "Miss Montgomery, there's something you need to see." And with those words, Eleanor knew her journey was just beginning. Eleanor followed Dr. Walsh back to the ambulance, her high heels echoing on the quiet street. The doctor seemed hesitant, as if he was about to reveal a secret he wasn't sure he should share. "What is it, doctor?" Eleanor asked, her voice betraying a mix of concern and curiosity. Dr. Walsh opened the ambulance's back door. "It's about the baby," he said, gesturing for Eleanor to look inside. The tiny bundle was now clean, wrapped in a hospital blanket. But that wasn't what caught Eleanor's attention. Beside the baby lay a small gold medal. "This was attached to the blanket," Walsh explained. "It has an inscription." Eleanor picked up the medal with trembling fingers. Turning it over, her heart stopped. The inscription read, "To my Eleanor, with eternal love." The world around her seemed to fade. Suddenly, she wasn't on a cold city street, but in a small, kind of stuffy room 35 years ago. "Eleanor, my love," her mother whispered, her voice weak. "Promise me you'll be strong." 10-year-old Eleanor clutched her mother's hand, silent tears streaming down her face. The room smelled of medicine and disinfectant, a scent Eleanor would forever associate with loss. "Mom, please don't go," she begged. Her mother gave a sad smile, pulling something from beneath her pillow. It was a gold medal. "This belonged to my grandmother and her grandmother before her. Now it's yours, my angel. Always remember, you are loved." "Miss Montgomery, Eleanor." Dr. Walsh's voice pulled her back to the present. She blinked, realizing tears had formed in her eyes. "Sorry," she murmured, quickly wiping her eyes. "It's just this medal. I had one just like it when I was a child." Walsh studied her with a mix of curiosity and compassion. "That may not be a coincidence," he said softly. "There might be more to this story than we realize." Eleanor nodded, her mind racing. How could her childhood medal, one of the few links to her deceased mother, end up with this abandoned baby? "Dr. Walsh, I need to investigate this further," she said, her voice regaining its usual firmness. "Who's handling the case?" "Detective Maria Santos is leading the investigation," Walsh replied. "Taz, she should be arriving soon to ask some questions." As if on cue, a police car pulled up nearby. A middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a confident posture stepped out. "Detective Santos," she introduced herself, extending a hand. "You must be Eleanor Montgomery. And Dr. Walsh, thank you for taking care of the baby." As the detective asked her questions, Eleanor found herself torn between wanting to help and needing to protect her emotions. She recounted finding Sophia and the baby, but hesitated to mention the medal. For some reason, that detail felt too personal to share just yet. "And the girl, Sophia?" Eleanor asked, suddenly remembering the frightened child. "She's with social services now," Santos replied. "Apparently, she lives with her uncles in a nearby neighborhood. We're trying to contact them." Eleanor felt a pang of concern. She seemed so scared and alone. Can I see her?" The detective looked surprised by the request. "Well, it's not standard procedure, but given your involvement in the case, we might be able to arrange something tomorrow." As the conversation continued, Eleanor couldn't take her eyes off the ambulance where the baby lay. An idea began forming in her mind, one that just hours ago would have seemed absurd. "What will happen to the baby now?" she asked, interrupting the detective. "Well, after medical examinations, she'll be placed in temporary foster care until we locate her family or—" Santos hesitated. "Or find an adoptive family," Eleanor finished. She took a deep breath. What if I volunteered to care for her temporarily?" The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Walsh and Detective Santos exchanged surprised looks. "Miss Montgomery," Santos began, "I understand you're emotionally involved, but—" "I have resources," Eleanor interrupted. "I can provide everything she needs, and more importantly, I can dedicate my time and attention to help with the investigation." Dr. Walsh cleared his throat. From a medical standpoint, stability would be beneficial for the baby, and Miss Montgomery certainly has the means to offer that. The detective looked hesitant but thoughtful. "I'll need to consult my superiors and social services, but it could be a viable option, considering the circumstances." Eleanor felt a wave of relief and, surprisingly, excitement. It was as if a long-forgotten purpose was awakening within her. While procedures were discussed and forms filled out, Eleanor found herself thinking about her assistant, Vanessa. She had disappeared a week ago, pregnant and scared. Could it be? No, she pushed the thought aside. Too many coincidences for one night. Hours later, when Eleanor finally entered her penthouse apartment, she felt like a stranger in her own home. The expensive furniture and minimalist decor seemed cold and lifeless compared to the emotional intensity of the past few hours. She walked to the window, gazing out at the city that never slept. Somewhere out there, Sophia was probably scared and confused. The baby, whom she was already starting to think of as her little girl, was in a hospital crib. And Vanessa? Where was Vanessa? Eleanor picked up her phone, dialing a number she rarely used. "Hello, Jack, it's Eleanor. I need you to investigate something for me. It's about my assistant, Vanessa." As she gave instructions to her private investigator, Eleanor knew her life was about to change dramatically. The medal in her pocket felt like it weighed a ton, heavy with memories and mysteries. Tomorrow, she would face her company's board, reorganize her schedule, and begin a journey she never imagined. But for now, for the first time in years, Eleanor Montgomery allowed herself to cry, letting the tears wash away years of isolation and denial. The cry of an abandoned baby had awakened something within her, and Eleanor was determined to uncover not only the truth about the child, but also about herself. The sun had barely risen when Eleanor woke with a start. For a moment, she was disoriented, the memories of the previous night blending with restless dreams. The golden medal on her bedside table brought her back to reality. She got up, determined. Today would be the day to start unraveling the mysteries surrounding her. First, an important call. "Hello, Sarah, it's Eleanor. I need you to take over today's meetings." "Yes, all of them. A personal emergency has come up." After giving instructions to her vice president, Eleanor quickly got ready. She dressed meticulously, but opted for a more casual outfit than her usual executive suit. Today, she wasn't the ruthless CEO, but a woman on a mission for answers. Her phone rang. It was Jack, the investigator. "Eleanor, I have news about Vanessa," he said, his voice grave. "She was admitted to a psychiatric hospital 5 days ago. Voluntarily, it seems." Eleanor's heart raced. "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's." "Eleanor, there's more. Records show she was admitted while pregnant, but what, Jack? She's no longer pregnant. And there's no record of a birth." Eleanor closed her eyes, processing the information. "Thank you, Jack. Keep digging." She grabbed her bag and left, her mind racing. Vanessa, pregnant and frightened, disappearing only to resurface in a psychiatric hospital. An abandoned baby, a medal identical to hers. Too many coincidences. On her way to the hospital, Eleanor made another call. "Detective Santos, this is Eleanor Montgomery. I have information that might be relevant to the case." After a brief conversation, they agreed to meet at the hospital. Eleanor felt a mix of anxiety and determination. She was about to dive into uncharted waters, but something inside her pushed her forward. St. Mary's was an imposing building, a blend of old architecture and modern additions. Eleanor met Detective Santos at the reception desk. "Ms. Montgomery," Santos greeted her, her expression serious. "Before we see your assistant, there's something I need to tell you. We found the baby's mother." Eleanor felt the world spin. "Who?" "A young woman named Marina Santos. No relation to me," the detective added with a sad smile. "She's 18 and lives in the same neighborhood where the baby was found." "Did she confess?" Santos nodded. "She came to the station this morning, a bundle of nerves. She's devastated and terrified." Eleanor absorbed the information, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. Part of her had hoped Vanessa was the mother, a direct connection to her life. "And Vanessa?" she asked. "Let's go talk to her now. There may still be a connection we haven't seen yet." They climbed to the psychiatric ward. Dr. Theodore Walsh met them in the hallway, his expression grave. "Miss Montgomery, detective," he greeted them. "I've been briefed on the situation. Vanessa is fragile. We need to be careful." Eleanor nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. When they entered the room, she barely recognized her assistant. Vanessa, always so composed and efficient, looked like a shadow of herself. Dark circles under her eyes, disheveled hair, a lost expression. "Vanessa," Eleanor called gently. The young woman turned slowly. Her eyes widened as she recognized Eleanor. "Miss Montgomery, I'm so sorry. I couldn't... Eleanor approached, sitting on the edge of the bed. "It's okay, Vanessa. We're here to help. Can you tell us what happened?" Vanessa began to cry silently. "I lost the baby," she whispered. "It was a week ago. I went into premature labor, and she didn't survive." Eleanor's heart ached. She held Vanessa's hand, offering silent comfort. Detective Santos stepped forward gently. "Vanessa, we know this is difficult, but we need to ask. Have you had any contact with a young woman named Marina Santos?" Vanessa frowned, confused. "Marina? Yes, I met her here. She was pregnant too, scared. We talked a few times." Eleanor and Santos exchanged glances. An unexpected connection. "Vanessa," Eleanor said softly, "a baby was abandoned last night. We believe it's Marina's child." Vanessa's eyes widened. "Oh no," she murmured. She was so scared, so alone. "I tried to advise her, but do you know why she might have abandoned the baby?" Santos asked. Vanessa hesitated. "She mentioned problems at home, an abusive stepfather, I think. And there was a man, someone pressuring her. She didn't go into details, but she seemed terrified." Eleanor felt a chill. The story was becoming more complex and darker by the moment. "Ice, there's one more thing," Eleanor said, pulling the medal from her pocket. "This was found with the baby. Do you know anything about it?" Vanessa looked at the medal, her eyes lighting up with recognition. "Yes, Marina showed it to me once. She said it was a family heirloom, the only thing of value she owned." Eleanor felt the world spin again. The medal wasn't hers, but it was still connected to this tangled web of events. What other surprises did fate have in store? After a few more questions, they left Vanessa to rest. In the hallway, Eleanor, Santos, and Dr. Walsh gathered. "This complicates things," Santos sighed. "As we need to investigate the stepfather and the man who was pressuring Marina." "And the baby?" Eleanor asked, her voice betraying her concern. Dr. Walsh offered a small smile. "She's doing well, healthy and strong, and..." He hesitated. "Social services approved your request for temporary custody?" Eleanor felt a wave of emotions: relief, joy, fear. "Sis, when can I take her home?" "Tomorrow," Walsh replied. "But there's one condition. Sophia, the girl who found the baby. She refuses to leave the child's side. Social services suggested you take her in temporarily as well." Eleanor blinked, surprised. Her life was changing faster than she could process, but strangely, she felt more alive than she had in years. "All right," she said, surprising even herself. "I can take care of both." As they left the hospital, Eleanor knew she was at the start of a journey that would change her life forever. Mysteries to unravel, lives to protect, truths to uncover. And at the center of it all, a small baby, abandoned but not forgotten, waiting to be loved. Eleanor woke to the soft sound of crying from the next room. For a moment, she was disoriented, the reality of the past days blending with her dreams. Then, it all came back. The baby, Sophia, the ongoing investigation. She got up quickly, slipping on a silk robe. In the makeshift nursery, she found Sophia already up, trying to calm little Isabella, the name Eleanor had chosen for the baby. "It's all right, sweetheart," Eleanor said softly, approaching. "I'll take care of it." Sophia looked at her with sleepy but alert eyes. "I think she's hungry." Eleanor picked Isabella up, surprised at how natural the gesture felt. "You're right. Let's make her a bottle." In the kitchen, while warming the milk, Eleanor observed Sophia. The girl seemed both very young and strangely mature. "Sophia," Eleanor began hesitantly, "do you remember anything else about the night you found Isabella?" Sophia bit her lip, thoughtful. "I saw a lady crying before. She looked scared. Do you think you could recognize her if you saw her again?" Sophia nodded slowly. Eleanor made a mental note to inform Detective Santos. The phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was Jack, the investigator. "Eleanor, I found something about Marina's stepfather," he said, his voice tense. "His name is Carlos Ribeiro. He has a criminal record for assault, and is suspected of involvement with a local trafficking network. Eleanor felt a chill run down her spine. "Thank you, Jack. Keep digging, but be cautious." After hanging up, Eleanor turned back to Sophia and Isabella, feeling a wave of protectiveness. The world outside seemed darker and more dangerous, but here, in this little nucleus they'd formed, there was light. "Sophia, how about we go to the park today?" Eleanor suggested, surprising even herself. When was the last time she had gone to a park? Sophia's eyes lit up. "Can we?" Hours later, Eleanor found herself sitting on a park bench, Isabella peacefully sleeping in the stroller beside her, while Sophia played on the nearby playground. The scene was so ordinary, so normal, and yet, for Eleanor, it felt like stepping into a completely new world. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from Detective Santos. "We need to talk." "Can I stop by your office this afternoon?" Eleanor replied affirmatively, feeling reality intrude on her moment of peace. Back at the apartment after lunch, Eleanor was preparing to go to the office when the doorbell rang. It was Dr. Walsh. "Sorry for dropping by unannounced," he said, looking slightly uncomfortable. I wanted to check on the girls, and you." Eleanor invited him in, noticing how different he seemed outside the hospital setting, more human, perhaps. "They're doing well," Eleanor replied, leading him to the living room where Sophia was playing with Isabella. "Actually, we're all adapting surprisingly well," Walsh observed the scene with a gentle smile. "You seem different, Eleanor, more alive." She looked at him, surprised by the personal observation. "I think I am. It's like I've found something I didn't even know I was looking for." They talked for a few minutes, Walsh checking on Isabella and praising Eleanor's care. As he was leaving, Eleanor surprised herself by asking a question. "Dr. Walsh? Theodore, why do you care so much about this case?" He hesitated at the door, his eyes growing distant. "Let's just say I have a personal history with abandoned children. Maybe someday I'll tell you about it." After Walsh left, Eleanor prepared to head to the office, leaving the girls with a babysitter recommended by social services. In the elevator at her company, Eleanor felt the curious gazes of her employees. Rumors about her atypical behavior over the past few days were surely circulating. Sarah, her vice president, met her at the door to her office. "Eleanor, the board is pressing for answers. They want to know what's going on." Eleanor sighed. "Schedule a meeting for tomorrow. I'll clarify everything." Inside her office, Eleanor found Detective Santos waiting. "Thanks for seeing me," Santos began. "We have updates about Marina." Eleanor leaned forward, anxious. "What did you find?" "She finally opened up about why she abandoned the baby," Santos explained. "Apparently, her stepfather, Carlos Ribeiro, was blackmailing her. He threatened to expose that the baby's father is a married local politician unless she got rid of the problem." Eleanor felt nauseous. "My God, that poor girl." "There's more," Santos continued. "Marina mentioned a woman who helped her at the hospital. From the description, it sounds like Vanessa." Eleanor blinked, surprised. The connections kept multiplying. "And what about the politician?" Eleanor asked. Santos frowned. "We don't have a name yet. Marina is too terrified to reveal it." As they discussed next steps, Eleanor's mind raced. There was something bigger happening. She could feel it. Some connection they hadn't yet uncovered. After Santos left, Eleanor sat silently, gazing at the cityscape from her office window. Her life had changed so drastically in just a few days. The Eleanor of a week ago wouldn't recognize the woman she was becoming. Her phone rang, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was the babysitter. "Miss Montgomery, Sophia is asking for you. She had a nightmare and is very upset." "I'm on my way," Eleanor replied, already grabbing her bag. In the elevator on the way down, Eleanor reflected on her priorities. The corporate empire she had built suddenly seemed far less important compared to the two little lives now depending on her. At home, Eleanor found Sophia curled up on the couch, her eyes red from crying. Without hesitation, she sat beside the girl and hugged her. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here now." Sophia sobbed into her chest. "I dreamed they took Isabella away, and you too." Eleanor felt her heart tighten. No one will take us away from each other, Sophia. I promise. As she comforted Sophia, Eleanor realized she had made a decision. No matter what, she would protect these children. She would unravel the mysteries surrounding them and face whoever she had to. Isabella started crying in the next room, as if sensing the tension. Eleanor stood, still holding Sophia's hand. Come on, let's check on our little girl. Together, they went to the crib. Eleanor picked up Isabella, and Sophia snuggled beside her. In that moment, looking at the two girls, Eleanor knew her life would never be the same. And, surprisingly, she was happy about it. The shrill sound of her alarm pulled Eleanor from a restless sleep. She got up, feeling the weight of the responsibilities she had taken on in recent days. The board meeting was scheduled for that morning, and she knew it would be a challenge to explain her sudden shift in priorities. Entering the kitchen, Eleanor found Sophia already awake, clumsily attempting to prepare breakfast. Good morning, sweetheart, Eleanor smiled, surprised by the girl's initiative. Das, what are you doing? Sophia looked up at her, a little embarrassed. I wanted to make breakfast for you, to say thank you for everything. Eleanor felt a wave of emotion. She approached Sophia and hugged her warmly. That's very sweet of you. How about we make it together? As they made pancakes, Eleanor watched Sophia closely. There was a maturity in the girl's eyes that belied her age. Sophia, Eleanor began hesitantly, do you remember anything more about your family, about how you came to live with your uncles? The girl was quiet for a moment, her face scrunching in concentration. Not much, she admitted. Sometimes I have dreams about a woman with dark hair. She's always crying. Eleanor made a mental note to share this information with Detective Santos. It might be a clue about Sophia's biological mother. Isabella's cries interrupted their conversation. Eleanor went to the crib, bringing the baby into the kitchen. Watching the three of them together, she felt a strange sense of completeness, something she had never experienced in her career-driven life. After breakfast, Eleanor prepared for the meeting, leaving the girls with the babysitter. On the way to the office, she received a call from Dr. Walsh. Eleanor, there's news about Vanessa, he said, his voice tense. She had a breakdown last night. She kept repeating something about protecting the secret and they can't know. Eleanor felt a chill. Did she say who they are? Not specifically, but she seemed genuinely terrified. Arriving at the office, Eleanor barely had time to process the information before being ushered into the boardroom. The board members awaited her, their expressions ranging from concern to irritation. Eleanor, George Key, the board president, began, We're worried about your recent behavior. Rumors are spreading, and the shareholders are growing nervous. Eleanor took a deep breath, meeting each of their eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand my actions over the past few days may seem unusual, but I assure you, I have everything under control. She then proceeded to explain, in general terms, about the abandoned baby and her decision to get involved in the case. She omitted sensitive details of the investigation, but made it clear that she intended to balance her new responsibilities with her role at the company. This is madness, Eleanor, one member protested. You can't risk everything we've built over some philanthropic impulse. Eleanor felt a surge of anger she hadn't experienced in years. A philanthropic impulse, she repeated, her voice dangerously calm. We're talking about human lives, vulnerable children. If this company can't understand the importance of that, then maybe I've failed as a leader more than I thought. The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor looked each of them in the eye, her resolve unwavering. I will continue to lead this company with the same dedication as always, but I will also use our resources to make a difference in the lives of these children and others who need help. If anyone has an issue with that, feel free to resign right now. No one moved. Finally, George spoke. Very well, Eleanor. We trust your judgment. But keep us informed. Leaving the meeting, Eleanor felt drained but strangely invigorated. It was as if a dormant part of her had finally awakened. Her phone buzzed with a message from Detective Santos. We need to talk. It's about Marina. Eleanor replied immediately, arranging to meet for lunch. At the restaurant, Santos seemed agitated. "Marina finally revealed the name of Isabella's father," she said as soon as Eleanor sat down. "It's Councilman Ricardo Mendez." Eleanor felt the shock of the revelation. Mendez was known for his conservative platform and speeches on family values. The hypocrisy was nauseating. "Does he know about the baby?" Eleanor asked. Santos nodded. "Apparently, he's behind the threats. He wants the baby gone to avoid a scandal." The anger Eleanor felt was overwhelming. "We need to protect Marina and Isabella and expose that bastard." "It's not that simple," Santos warned. "Mendez has powerful connections. And there's something else. Marina mentioned a network. We believe there may be more people involved in similar cases." Eleanor felt the weight of the situation. This was bigger than she had initially thought. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, she felt a growing determination. "What can we do?" she asked. "For now, keep Marina and the baby safe and continue investigating discreetly." After lunch, Eleanor returned home, her mind racing with the new information. She found Sophia playing with Isabella in the living room, the domestic scene sharply contrasting the turmoil in her thoughts. "How was your day?" Eleanor asked, sitting beside the girls. Sophia smiled, but there was a shadow in her eyes. "It was good. But I had that dream again about the woman crying." Eleanor hugged Sophia, feeling an ever stronger bond with the girl. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're safe here." That night, after putting the girls to bed, Eleanor found herself on the balcony of her apartment, staring at the city lights. Her phone rang. It was Dr. Walsh. "Sorry to call so late," he said. "Tabit, I thought you'd want to know. Vanessa asked to speak with you. She says she's ready to tell you everything she knows." Eleanor felt a mix of relief and apprehension. "I'll be there first thing in the morning." After hanging up, Eleanor lingered on the balcony, contemplating the whirlwind of events that had brought her to this point. In just a few days, her life had been completely transformed. Once a solitary executive focused solely on results, she had become the guardian of two vulnerable children and a central figure in a complex investigation. Returning inside, Eleanor stopped by the girls' room. Sophia was curled up with a teddy bear, while Isabella slept peacefully in her crib. Looking at them, Eleanor felt a certainty she had never known before. No matter what came next, political threats, hidden secrets, or business challenges, she would fight with all her strength to protect these children and uncover the truth. Eleanor Montgomery, the relentless businesswoman, had awakened to something greater than herself, and there was no turning back. With that resolve, she prepared for bed, knowing that the next day would bring new challenges and possibly revelations that could change everything once again. The journey was just beginning, and Eleanor was ready to face every obstacle, not alone anymore, but with the love and strength Sophia and Isabella had brought into her life. Dawn found Eleanor already awake, her mind filled with thoughts about the impending conversation with Vanessa. She moved quietly around the apartment, not wanting to wake Sophia or Isabella. She left a detailed note for the babysitter, and after a last fond glance at the sleeping girls, headed to the hospital. St. Mary's felt different that morning, less intimidating perhaps. Dr. Walsh was waiting for her at the entrance, his face a mixture of concern and relief. "Good morning, Eleanor," he greeted. "Vanessa is eager to talk to you, but I must warn you, she's still very fragile." Eleanor nodded, feeling a pang of guilt. She had focused so much on Sophia and Isabella that she had almost forgotten Vanessa's pain. Entering the room, Eleanor was surprised by the change in Vanessa. The young woman looked more lucid, though still visibly shaken. "Ms. Montgomery," Vanessa began, her voice trembling, I'm so sorry for everything." Eleanor sat beside the bed, taking Vanessa's hand. "It's okay, I'm here to listen, not to judge." Vanessa took a deep breath and began her story. "It all started a few months ago when I found out I was pregnant. The father, he's an influential man, married. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do." Eleanor felt a knot in her stomach, fearing where the story was headed. "He pressured me to have an abortion," Vanessa continued, tears streaming down her face. "But I couldn't. Then he started threatening me. Said he'd ruin my career, my life." "Who is he, Vanessa?" Eleanor asked gently. Vanessa hesitated, fear evident in her eyes. Councilman Ricardo Mendez. Eleanor felt as if she had been punched. The same man connected to Marina and Isabella. This couldn't be a coincidence. He isn't alone in this, Vanessa continued, her voice almost a whisper. There are others, politicians, businessmen. They have a network. They protect each other, silence the women who get pregnant. Eleanor's mind reeled with the implications. A network of powerful men, using their influence to cover up their indiscretions at any cost. What happened to your baby, Vanessa? Eleanor asked, dreading the answer. Vanessa began to sob uncontrollably. I lost her. It was an accident, I swear. But they made me believe it was my fault. That I'd go to prison if anyone found out. Eleanor embraced Vanessa, feeling a mix of rage and compassion. It wasn't your fault, she assured her. And we're going to expose these men, I promise. After calming Vanessa, Eleanor left the room and found Dr. Walsh waiting in the corridor. She shared Vanessa's revelations, watching his expression harden with every word. This is bigger than we imagined, Walsh said, running a hand through his hair. We need to inform Detective Santos immediately. Eleanor agreed, but before they could act, her phone rang. It was the babysitter, her voice frantic. Mrs. Montgomery, it's Sophia. She's gone. Eleanor's world seemed to collapse. What do you mean, gone? What happened? I was changing Isabella, and when I came back to the living room, Sophia wasn't there. The front door was open. Eleanor felt panic rising. Ahmed, I'm coming back now. Call the police. She turned to Walsh, the terror evident in her eyes. Sophia's disappeared. I need to go. I'm coming with you, Walsh said without hesitation. The drive back to the apartment was a blur of fear and anxiety. When they arrived, they found Detective Santos already on the scene, coordinating a search team. We're reviewing the building's security footage, Santos informed them. There's something strange. Eleanor, the camera on your floor went offline for exactly 5 minutes this morning. Eleanor felt a chill. This was no coincidence. Or do you think it's connected to what we've uncovered? Santos nodded grimly. It's possible, but we can't jump to conclusions. We'll find her. The following hours were a whirlwind of activity. Search teams combed the neighborhood, while Eleanor, consumed by guilt and worry, alternated between comforting Isabella and assisting with the search. Late in the afternoon, the first lead emerged. A neighbor reported seeing a girl matching Sophia's description being taken by a woman with dark hair. A woman? Eleanor asked, confused. Not a man. This complicates things, Santos murmured. It may not be related to the network we're investigating. As they discussed the implications, Eleanor's phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. Hello? She answered hesitantly. Eleanor Montgomery, a trembling female voice asked. I have Sophia. Eleanor felt her heart stop. Who are you? Please, don't hurt her. My name is Marina, the voice replied. Marina Santos. I'm her mother. The shock of the revelation hit Eleanor like a wave. Marina, the mother of Isabella, was also Sophia's mother. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together in ways she hadn't anticipated. Marina, please, Eleanor pleaded, signaling for Santos to trace the call. Bring Sophia back. We can talk, figure this out. There was a pause on the other end. I didn't want to abandon her, Marina said, her voice breaking. Either of them, but they forced me. They said they'd kill Sophia if I didn't give up Isabella. Eleanor felt a mix of compassion and horror. Marina, we're investigating these men. We can protect you and the girls. Please, trust me. Another moment of silence. Then, okay, I'll bring Sophia back. But you have to promise me one thing. Anything, Eleanor responded without hesitation. Promise me you'll keep my daughters together, protect them, no matter what happens to me. Tears welled up in Eleanor's eyes. I promise, Marina, with my life. After arranging a meeting location, Eleanor hung up, turning to Santos and Walsh, who had overheard part of the conversation. This changes everything, Santos said, already organizing a team for the meeting. Walsh placed a hand on Eleanor's shoulder. Are you ready for this? To possibly care for both girls permanently. Eleanor looked at the crib where Isabella slept, thinking of Sophia and the incredible journey of the past few days. Her life had changed completely, and she knew there was no going back. "I'm more than ready," she replied with a certainty that surprised even herself. "These girls are my family now, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep them safe and together." As they prepared for the meeting with Marina, Eleanor knew they were about to enter a new chapter in this incredible story, a chapter full of danger, no doubt, but also of love, redemption, and the possibility of healing for everyone involved. With renewed determination, Eleanor headed for the door. It was time to bring her unlikely family together and face whatever the future held. The meeting place was a small, unassuming park a few blocks from Eleanor's apartment. Even at this hour, a few families were still enjoying the space, unaware of the drama about to unfold. Eleanor arrived first, accompanied by Detective Santos and Dr. Walsh, who insisted on being present. Isabella slept peacefully in the stroller, oblivious to the palpable tension in the air. "Remember," Santos instructed, "let me lead the conversation. Marina might be scared and unpredictable." Eleanor nodded, her eyes scanning the park anxiously. Then she saw her, a young woman with dark hair walking hesitantly toward them. Beside her, clutching her hand tightly, was Sophia. Sophia! Eleanor couldn't suppress the cry of relief. The girl looked up, her eyes lighting up when she saw Eleanor. She started to run, but Marina gently held her back. "Wait, sweetheart," Marina said softly, approaching the group. Eleanor studied Marina's face, noticing the similarities with Sophia and Isabella. The same expressive eyes, the same facial structure. There was no doubt they were mother and daughters. "Miss Montgomery," Marina began, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry for all of this." Detective Santos stepped forward. "Marina Santos, I'm Detective Ana Santos. We need to talk about your actions and the safety of these girls." Marina nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know. I just wanted to see my daughters together one last time." Eleanor's heart tightened. Despite everything, she couldn't help but feel compassion for this young, tormented mother. "Why don't we sit down, Doctor?" Walsh suggested, motioning toward a nearby bench. As they sat, Sophia ran into Eleanor's arms, hugging her tightly. "I missed you," the girl murmured. "I missed you too, sweetheart," Eleanor replied, kissing the top of her head. "Are you okay? Did she hurt you?" Sophia shook her head. "No, she was nice. She said she's my mum." Eleanor exchanged a glance with Santos, who nodded subtly. It was time for the truth. "Sophia," Eleanor began gently, "there are some things we need to tell you, things about your family." As Eleanor and Santos carefully explained the situation to Sophia, Marina watched, silent tears streaming down her face. "Doctor," Walsh kept an eye on Isabella, who stirred in her sleep. "So," Sophia said slowly, processing the information. "Marina is my real mum, and Isabella's too." Eleanor nodded. "Yes, sweetheart, and there's more. Do you remember those dreams you had, about a crying woman?" Sophia's eyes widened with understanding. It was her. "It was a memory," Marina sobbed, reaching out hesitantly for Sophia. "I'm so sorry, my love. I never wanted to leave you. They forced me." Detective Santos leaned forward. "Marina, we need to know exactly what happened. Who are they?" Marina took a deep breath, glancing nervously around before beginning her story. "It all started about 8 years ago. I was young, naive. I met a man, Ricardo Mendez. He was charming, promised to help me. I got pregnant with Sophia." Eleanor felt a chill at the mention of Mendez's name again. Marina continued, "When I told Ricardo, he was furious. He said it would ruin his political career. He introduced me to other men, powerful men. They had a system for dealing with problems like me." "The network," Santos murmured, furiously taking notes. "They forced me to give Sophia up for adoption," Marina said, her voice trembling with anger. "They said if I told anyone, they'd kill her. I was devastated, but I had no choice." Sophia, hearing all of this, clung tightly to Eleanor's hand for comfort. "How years passed," Marina continued. "I tried to move on, but I never forgot my daughter. Then, about a year ago, I met Carlos. The abusive stepfather? Eleanor asked, recalling the earlier information. Marina nodded sadly. At first, he seemed kind, but I soon discovered he was connected to the same network as Ricardo. When I became pregnant with Isabella, the nightmare started again. At this moment, Isabella woke up crying softly. Dr. Walsh picked her up, soothing her gently. Marina looked at the baby, her eyes filled with love and pain. They gave me an ultimatum. Either I abandoned Isabella or they'd hurt Sophia. I didn't know what to do. So you left Isabella by the dumpster, Eleanor said softly. Yes, Marina sobbed, but I couldn't bear it. I watched from a distance, praying someone would find her quickly. When I saw you and Sophia, it felt like fate. Detective Santos stood, her face determined. Marina, we need names, everyone involved in this network. With your testimony, we can take them down. Marina looked terrified. But what if they come after the girls or me? That was when Eleanor made a decision that would change all their lives. They'll stay with me, she declared firmly. Sophia, Isabella, and you, Marina. My apartment has top security. I can protect you while the investigation continues. Everyone stared at Eleanor, surprised by her offer. Eleanor, Dr. Walsh began, concerned. Are you sure? This could be dangerous. Eleanor looked at Sophia, at Isabella in Walsh's arms, and at Marina. In just a few days, these people had become more important to her than anything in her old life. I'm absolutely sure, she replied. These girls are my family now, and family protects each other. Marina began to cry again, this time out of relief and gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for taking care of them when I couldn't. Detective Santos nodded, approving the plan. I'll arrange for police protection at the apartment. Marina, we need to start working on your statement immediately. As they prepared to leave the park, Eleanor felt the weight of the responsibility she had taken on. She was about to face some of the most powerful men in the city, risking everything she had built. But looking at Sophia, who held her hand, at Isabella now awake and curiously gazing around, and at Marina, burdened with so many secrets, Eleanor knew she was doing the right thing. Dr. Walsh approached Eleanor, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're not alone in this, he said softly. You can count on me for anything you need. Eleanor smiled, grateful for his support. Thank you, Theodore. I think we're going to need all the help we can get. As the group left the park, Eleanor knew they were stepping into dangerous waters. The web of corruption and secrets they had uncovered was just the tip of the iceberg. More revelations and threats would come. But for the first time in her life, Eleanor felt she was fighting for something bigger than herself. It wasn't just about success or power anymore. It was about family, justice, and making a real difference in people's lives. With Sophia on one side, Marina on the other, and Isabella safe in her arms, Eleanor walked toward the uncertain future with unshakable determination. The buried secrets were coming to light, and she was ready to face any storm that came their way. The night was only beginning, and with it, a new chapter in all their lives, a chapter of redemption, courage, and above all, love. The days following the park meeting were a whirlwind of activity and emotions in Eleanor's apartment. Marina's presence introduced a new dynamic, blending joy and tension in equal measure. Eleanor observed with fascination and a bit of apprehension as Marina tried to rebuild her bond with Sophia. The girl, in turn, oscillated between curiosity and caution, still clinging to Eleanor for a sense of security. One particularly hectic morning, with Isabella crying in her crib and Sophia asking endless questions about her past, Eleanor found herself momentarily overwhelmed. Then, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Why don't you rest for a bit?" Marina suggested timidly. "Cyril can take care of the girls for a while." Eleanor hesitated, surprised by the offer and the sudden confidence she felt in Marina. Nodding gratefully, she retreated to her office, taking the opportunity to make some necessary calls. First, to Sarah, her vice president. "Sarah, I need you to take full control of the company for the foreseeable future. I trust you to keep everything running smoothly." Then to Jack, her private investigator. "Jack, I need you to dig deeper into Ricardo Mendez and his associates. Any detail, no matter how small, could be critical. Finally, she called Dr. Walsh. "Theodore, could you come by today? I think it's time we piece together everything we've uncovered." That afternoon, with the children finally napping, Eleanor, Marina, Dr. Walsh, and Detective Santos gathered in the living room. The tension was palpable. "All right," Santos began, opening a folder full of documents. "Marina, we need every detail you can remember about Mendez's network." Marina took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "It all started 8 years ago, when I met Ricardo. I was just a naive 17-year-old girl, and he seemed so charming, so powerful." She went on to describe how Mendez seduced her, promising her the world, only to abandon her when he learned about her pregnancy. "He took me to a clandestine clinic," Marina revealed, her voice trembling. "He said it was for a checkup, but it was actually to force an abortion. When I refused, the threats began." Eleanor felt her stomach churn at the cruelty of the situation. Dr. Walsh, noticing her discomfort, placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Marina continued, describing an intricate network of politicians, businessmen, and even some corrupt healthcare professionals. All worked together to cover up indiscretions and silence women like her. "They have a system," she explained. "Some children are given up for adoption, like Sophia. Others—" She hesitated, tears streaming down her face. "Others just disappear." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with horror and indignation. "What about Carlos, your ex-stepfather?" Santos asked, breaking the silence. "Sayas Carlos was a pawn," Marina replied, her voice now firm with anger. "He was placed in my life by Mendez to keep me under control. When I became pregnant with Isabella, he was the first to threaten me." Dr. Walsh, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. "Marina, you mentioned healthcare professionals being involved. Do you have any names?" Marina hesitated, looking nervously at Eleanor. "Yes, there's one, Dr. Victor Almeida. He's the director of St. Mary's Hospital." Eleanor felt as if she had been punched. St. Mary's was where Vanessa had been admitted and where Dr. Walsh worked. "Theodore," Eleanor said softly, "did you know about this?" Walsh looked pale, clearly shocked. I suspected something was wrong. Records that didn't add up, patients who disappeared mysteriously. But I never imagined it was this big." Detective Santos was furiously taking notes. "This is bigger than we thought. We're talking about a conspiracy at a municipal, possibly even state level." Eleanor stood, walking to the window. Her mind raced with the implications of everything they had uncovered. She turned back to the group, her expression resolute. "What can we do? How do we stop this?" Santos sighed, running a hand through her hair. "It won't be easy. These men are powerful and well-connected. We'll need concrete evidence and willing witnesses." "I'll testify," Marina said, her voice trembling but resolute. "I can't let this keep happening to other women and children." Eleanor felt a surge of admiration for the young mother. "You won't be alone, Marina. I'll stand by you every step of the way." Dr. Walsh stood, his face set with determination. "I can investigate internally at the hospital. There must be records, proof of Dr. Almeida's involvement." "Be careful," Eleanor warned, feeling a pang of worry. "We don't know how deep this goes." As they discussed strategies and next steps, a cry from the children's room interrupted the conversation. Marina got up to check, but Eleanor stopped her gently. "I'll handle it," she said with a soft smile. "You've done enough today." In the children's room, Eleanor found Isabella awake, her tiny arms reaching out. Picking up the baby, Eleanor felt a surge of emotion. How could something so small and innocent be at the center of such a dark web of corruption and cruelty? "I promise to protect you," she whispered to Isabella. "You and your sister, nothing bad will happen to you." Returning to the living room with Isabella in her arms, Eleanor found the group still deep in discussion. Sophia, now awake, was sitting on Marina's lap, listening intently with her big, serious eyes. "We need to act quickly," Santos was saying. "Now that we've started pulling at this thread, they may try to act preemptively." Eleanor nodded, gently rocking Isabella. "I agree, but we also need to be cautious. Marina and the girls' safety is our top priority." Dr. Walsh approached Eleanor, glancing tenderly at Isabella. "I'll start my investigation at the hospital tomorrow. Eleanor, if I find anything, I may need your influence to act." "You can count on me," she replied, feeling a growing connection to the doctor. As the group finalized their plans, Eleanor couldn't help but reflect on how drastically her life had changed in such a short time. From a solitary executive focused solely on results, she had become the protector of an unlikely family and a key figure in a battle against corruption. Looking at Marina, Sophia, and Isabella, Eleanor felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. No matter the challenges ahead, she would fight with all her strength to protect this family and expose the truth. The night fell over the city, bringing with it the promise of turbulent days ahead. But in that apartment, surrounded by those who had quickly become her family, Eleanor felt, for the first time in years, truly at home. Her tomorrow, she thought, watching Sophia drift to sleep in Marina's arms. Tomorrow we start the real fight. And with that resolution, Eleanor prepared for the battles to come, knowing the road would be difficult, but confident that together they could make a difference. The truth was coming to light, and with it, the hope for justice and redemption for everyone involved. The dawn brought a nervous energy to Eleanor's apartment. The decision to act against the corruption network weighed heavily on everyone, blending determination with an underlying fear of the unknown. Eleanor found Marina in the kitchen, preparing breakfast for the girls. There was a newfound confidence in the young mother's movements, as if sharing her story had lifted an invisible burden from her shoulders. "Good morning," Eleanor greeted, grabbing a cup of coffee. "How are you feeling?" Marina offered a timid smile. "Scared, but lighter somehow. Like I can finally breathe again." They were interrupted by Sophia, who came running into the kitchen, her eyes alight with childish curiosity. "Eleanor, Marina, can I help make pancakes?" The use of both names didn't escape Eleanor's notice. Sophia was still navigating uncharted waters, trying to understand her place in this new family dynamic. As they prepared breakfast together, Eleanor's phone rang. It was Dr. Walsh. "Eleanor?" His voice sounded tense. "We need to talk. I've uncovered something big at the hospital." Eleanor felt her heart race. "Come over as soon as you can." 30 minutes later, with the children entertained in the living room, the adults convened in Eleanor's office. "Doctor." Walsh looked exhausted, as though he hadn't slept. "I spent the night reviewing old hospital records," he began, spreading documents across the table, "and I found a disturbing pattern. Over the past 10 years, there's been an abnormally high number of stillbirths and complications during delivery, involving single mothers and teenagers." Marina gasped, her hands trembling as she picked up one of the papers. "These names, I recognize some of them. Girls who went through that clinic." Walsh nodded grimly. "Exactly. I believe many of these babies didn't die, they were relocated." Eleanor felt a wave of nausea. "You're saying they stole these babies?" "Worse," Walsh continued, "I found connections to an international adoption agency. I believe they've been selling these children overseas." The silence that followed was deafening. The magnitude of the conspiracy they were uncovering was almost incomprehensible. Detective Santos, who had arrived during the explanation, spoke up. "This explains a lot. We've had unresolved cases of missing infants for years. We always suspected something organized, but we never had concrete evidence." Eleanor stood, pacing to the window. "How did no one notice this before?" Walsh sighed heavily. "The system is designed to cover it up. Corrupt doctors, bribed social workers, even some police officers. It's a complex web." Marina, who had been silent, suddenly let out a sob. "To think that Isabella almost..." Eleanor quickly moved to her side, embracing her. "But it didn't happen. She's safe now. And we're going to make sure this never happens to anyone else." Santos stood, her face set with determination. "We need to act fast. With this information, I can get search and seizure warrants. But we need to be careful. If we tip off the wrong people too soon, they'll destroy the evidence." Walsh nodded. "I'll keep investigating internally, but I have to be discreet. If Dr. Almeida suspects anything, everything could fall apart." Eleanor felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. Her influence and resources would be critical in the coming days. "What can I do to help?" Santos considered for a moment. Your contacts in the media could be useful. If we can leak part of the story to trusted journalists, we could create public pressure. Consider it done, Eleanor replied, mentally listing the journalists she could trust. As they discussed strategies, a cry from the living room interrupted them. All four adults rushed out to find Sophia clutching a photo album, tears streaming down her face. "Sophia, what's wrong?" Eleanor asked, kneeling beside her. Between sobs, Sophia pointed to a picture. It was Marina, much younger, holding a baby. Is this me?" Marina approached hesitantly, tears in her own eyes. "Yes, my love. That photo was taken the day you were born, before they took you away." The moment was thick with emotion. Eleanor watched, her heart aching, as mother and daughter stared at each other, years of separation and secrets between them. Slowly, Sophia reached out her arms to Marina, who enveloped her in a tight embrace. Both were crying, but there was a sense of healing in the air, of pieces falling into place. Eleanor exchanged a glance with Dr. Walsh, seeing the same mix of emotion in his eyes. This moment of connection amidst the chaos of the investigation was a powerful reminder of why they were fighting. Once the emotions had settled, Eleanor gathered everyone in the living room. It was time for decisions. "Marina," she began gently, "with everything happening, we need to think about the girls' safety. Would you like to stay here permanently, at least until this is all resolved?" Marina looked surprised, glancing from Eleanor to the children. I don't want to be a burden." Eleanor smiled, taking Marina's hand. "You're not a burden. You're family now. All of you." Sophia, who had been listening attentively, suddenly asked, "Does this mean we can all stay together, like a real family?" The silence that followed was filled with expectation. Eleanor looked at Marina, then at Dr. Walsh and Santos, feeling the weight of the decision. "Yes, Sophia," she finally said, "we're a family now. Different, maybe, but a family." The smile that lit up Sophia's face was contagious. Even Isabella, in Dr. Walsh's arms, seemed to sense the change in atmosphere, letting out a happy gurgle as the group discussed practical next steps, room arrangements, the children's needs, security measures. Eleanor felt a wave of determination wash over her. This makeshift family, born out of tragic circumstances, had become her purpose. She would do everything in her power to protect them and ensure justice was served. The day wore on, bringing with it the promise of challenges, but also of hope. Eleanor knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but looking at the faces around her, Marina, Sophia, Isabella, Dr. Walsh, even the steadfast Detective Santos, she knew she wasn't alone. Together, they would face whatever came their way. They would rewrite their stories, not as victims, but as survivors, as fighters. And in the process, they might just change not only their own lives, but the lives of countless other families affected by this web of corruption and cruelty. With that resolution, Eleanor prepared for the turbulent days to come. The battle was just beginning, but for the first time in her life, she felt she was fighting for something truly important: family, justice, redemption. These would be her guiding lights in the dark days ahead. That night, the apartment was quiet, the calm before the storm. Eleanor stood by the window, looking out over the city lights. The weight of the day's revelations bore down on her, but so did a newfound sense of purpose. Behind her, she heard soft footsteps. Turning, she saw Sophia standing in the doorway, clutching her teddy bear. "Can't sleep?" Eleanor asked, motioning for Sophia to join her. The little girl nodded and climbed into her lap as Eleanor sat on the sofa. "I keep thinking about Marina," Sophia said softly. "She's my mum, right?" Eleanor stroked Sophia's hair gently. "Yes, sweetheart, she is. But you're my mom too," Sophia added, looking up at Eleanor with big, searching eyes. Eleanor felt her heart swell. "I think we're both your mums in different ways, and we both love you very much." Sophia seemed content with this answer, snuggling closer. Within minutes, she was fast asleep in Eleanor's arms. In that moment, Eleanor realized just how deeply she had come to love this little girl and her sister. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she would protect them with everything she had. The next morning, the apartment was a hive of activity. Dr. Walsh left early to begin his covert investigation at the hospital. Detective Santos had arranged for plainclothes officers to monitor the building, ensuring their safety. Marina, surprisingly, had taken on the role of a homemaker, organizing the apartment and caring for the girls. Eleanor marveled at how quickly Marina had adapted, even as she carried the heavy burden of her past. Midway through the morning, Eleanor's phone rang. It was Jack, her investigator. "Eleanor, I've got something," he said, his voice urgent. "See, I've traced a financial connection between Mendez and Dr. Almeida, payments disguised as consulting fees. This ties them directly to the network." Eleanor's grip tightened on the phone. "Good work, Jack. Keep digging, and be careful." Hanging up, Eleanor felt a surge of determination. Every piece of evidence brought them closer to dismantling the network. As the day progressed, Eleanor worked closely with Santos to plan the next steps. Marina had agreed to provide a formal statement, and Santos was coordinating with trusted colleagues to secure warrants for key suspects. Late that afternoon, Dr. Walsh returned, looking both triumphant and exhausted. "I found records," he announced. "Dozens of files, falsified documents, and correspondence between Almeida and foreign adoption agencies. It's more than enough to implicate him and potentially Mendez as well." Eleanor felt a wave of relief. They finally had the evidence they needed. "We need to move quickly," Santos said, reviewing the documents. "Once Almeida and Mendez realize the net is closing, they'll try to destroy the rest of the evidence." Eleanor nodded. "What do you need from me?" "Your media contacts," Santos replied. "If we go public with this, it'll be harder for them to cover their tracks." Eleanor immediately began making calls, reaching out to journalists she trusted implicitly. By evening, the first story was already in draft form, ready to be released as soon as the warrants were served. As night fell, the tension in the apartment was palpable. Eleanor gathered everyone in the living room: Marina, Sophia, Dr. Walsh, and Detective Santos. "We're on the brink of something big," Eleanor began. "This could bring justice not just for you, Marina, but for countless other women and children." Marina nodded, her expression resolute. "I'm ready. I want to do this, for Sophia and Isabella, and for every mother who suffered because of them." Santos added, "We'll move at dawn. Stay alert tonight. If anyone feels unsafe, call me immediately." After everyone dispersed, Eleanor found herself back by the window, watching the city. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see Dr. Walsh. "You've done an incredible thing, Eleanor," he said softly. "You've brought these people together and given them hope." Eleanor smiled, though her eyes were heavy with exhaustion. "I just want to make things right." Walsh hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "You're not alone in this. Whatever happens, I'll be here to help." The sincerity in his voice touched Eleanor deeply. For years, she had been surrounded by colleagues and associates, but had rarely felt truly supported. Now, with this makeshift family and allies like Walsh and Santos, she felt stronger than ever. As the city slept, Eleanor prepared herself for the battle ahead. Tomorrow would be a turning point, one way or another, and as she checked on the girls one last time, Sophia dreaming peacefully and Isabella tucked safely in her crib, she whispered a silent vow: "We'll get through this. Together." The dawn broke with a sharp chill in the air, a fitting prelude to what promised to be a tense day. Eleanor, already dressed and ready, sat in the living room, sipping coffee as the apartment stirred to life. Marina was feeding Isabella, while Sophia sat quietly on the couch, her teddy bear clutched tightly. "Doctor." Walsh arrived shortly after dusk, carrying a thick folder of documents. "These are the hospital records," he explained. "I've highlighted the most damning evidence. Detective Santos will use these to secure the warrants." Eleanor nodded, taking the folder. "We're close. Let's make sure this counts." An hour later, Detective Santos arrived with her team. She looked focused and determined. "We have the warrants," she announced. "We're hitting Mendez's office, Almeida's home, and the hospital simultaneously. This has to be coordinated perfectly." Eleanor handed over the folder. "This should help." and I've alerted the journalists. They're ready to go public once the raids begin. Santos glanced at Marina, who was standing nervously in the corner. Marina, your statement was crucial in securing these warrants. Thank you for your bravery. Marina nodded, her voice soft but resolute. I just want to make sure no one else has to go through what I did. The team left to execute the raids, leaving Eleanor, Marina, and the children under the watch of a plainclothes officer stationed in the apartment. The waiting was excruciating. Every passing minute felt like an eternity. Sophia picked up on the tension, her usual chatter replaced by quiet observations. Are the bad people going to be gone now? She asked, looking up at Eleanor with wide eyes. Eleanor knelt beside her. We're working on it, sweetheart. The good people are out there, making sure they can't hurt anyone else. Hours passed with no news. Finally, Eleanor's phone rang. It was Santos. We've got them, Santos said, her voice tinged with triumph. Mendez was caught trying to destroy files in his office. Almeida is in custody, and we've recovered additional evidence from the hospital. The network is collapsing. Eleanor exhaled, relief washing over her. That's incredible news. Thank you, Anna. This isn't the end, Santos cautioned, but it's a major step. The media will take it from here, and with the evidence we've secured, it'll be hard for anyone involved to escape justice. Hanging up, Eleanor turned to Marina and Sophia, a broad smile on her face. They did it. Mendez and Almeida are in custody. It's over. Marina burst into tears, a mix of relief and catharsis. Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you for everything. Eleanor pulled her into a hug, Sophia joining them in the embrace. Isabella babbled happily from her high chair, oblivious to the significance of the moment. That evening, Eleanor sat with Marina on the balcony, watching the city lights. The girls were asleep and the apartment was finally quiet. What happens now? Marina asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. We rebuild, Eleanor replied. You and the girls can stay here as long as you need. We'll figure out what's next, together. Marina hesitated before speaking again. I want to finish my education. I want to make something of myself for Sophia and Isabella. Eleanor smiled. I'll support you in every way I can. You're already an amazing mother. Now it's time to give yourself the same care and attention. The days that followed were a whirlwind of media coverage and legal proceedings. Mendez's arrest sent shockwaves through the political world, and the revelations about the adoption network sparked widespread outrage. Eleanor's name was frequently mentioned in the news, not as a CEO, but as a woman who had stood up for justice and protected a vulnerable family. As the dust began to settle, Eleanor started making plans for the future. She transformed her company into a foundation dedicated to supporting mothers and children in crisis. Marina enrolled in college, pursuing a degree in social work. Sophia, thriving in her new environment, began attending therapy to process her past, her resilience shining through. Dr. Walsh became a frequent visitor to the apartment, his bond with Eleanor deepening with every passing day. Their relationship, forged in the fires of crisis, evolved into something steady and heartfelt. On a quiet evening, as they sat together watching the girls play, Walsh took Eleanor's hand. You've changed my life, he said softly. I hope you know that. Eleanor smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. And you've changed mine. A year later, the apartment buzzed with laughter and life. Sophia had grown into a confident, happy child. Isabella was taking her first steps, her giggles echoing through the rooms. Marina, now a college sophomore, balanced her studies with motherhood, her determination inspiring everyone around her. Eleanor stood at the center of it all, watching her makeshift family thrive. She had traded the solitude of her old life for a home filled with love, chaos, and purpose. As Walsh joined her, placing an arm around her shoulders, Eleanor felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We did it, she whispered. No, Walsh corrected gently. You did it. You brought us all together. Looking out at the future she had built, Eleanor knew that the journey hadn't ended. It had only just begun.